Okay, here we go. Healthcare is going through significant transformation with the integration of AI and extended reality technologies. Healthcare leaders are leveraging artificial intelligence and extended reality to enhance treatment efficiency, accessibility, scalability, and accuracy. And that's the reason these technologies are seeing 30 to 35% CAGR in the healthcare space. Hi, this is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners. We are a deep tech revenue scaler and fund based out of Singapore with approximately 120 startups in our portfolio from different parts of the world, stages, and sectors. Since healthcare is going through interesting times, SIMFINITY and EthAum wanted to brainstorm with the leaders themselves and learn from their insights. We are thrilled to host a panel to discuss innovations transforming the healthcare space with a very diverse panel. To start with the introductions, I would request Dr. Anubhav to go first and introduce himself. Dr. Anubhav, please.
Yeah, so hi, myself, Anubhav Sukhwani. I've been into the service industry for almost 25 years now. So this is not the first industry as hospitals where I've been working. So I have a very diverse kind of interaction with different kind of industries. So I've worked with hotels, cinemas, malls, restaurants, built them, started them, operationalized them. And now it's been almost 12 years I've been into hospitals. So handling the profit and loss statements and running the operations across and throughout. Presently as Vice President with CK Birla Hospitals here at Jaipur in India. And has been an interesting journey in the past maybe 5-6 years in the AI and XR space. And I think very interestingly, in tier 2 cities also, there is a lot of traction which we see. So thank you for having me. And I think welcome to all the panelists and thank you, Pankaj.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Anubhav. And since you have been managing with a lot of operations in the hospital space, I'm sure you may be able to talk about not only the innovations that are happening, but also how those innovations are impacting on the ground, how they are impacting doctors' lives and medical practitioners' lives and patients' lives, and also the P&L, which is the most important aspect in running any business or running hospitals as well, right? So thanks a lot, Dr. Anubhav, for joining us today, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of great insights from you. Dr. Ilan, may I request you to go next, please?
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Good afternoon, all of you. I am Dr. Ilankumaran. I am basically a liver transplant anesthetist and intensivist, having nearly 20 years of experience. And I have been the CEO of Rela Hospital, one of India's largest liver transplant center, and it's a multi-specialty hospital. It's a 40-bedded hospital. So I have been doing dual work as a clinician and also as the CEO. And I have introduced a lot of AI tools and I have done a bit of research in the AI field in medicine the last couple of years. That's my brief background. And I have also worked in the UK and also in India for the last couple of years.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ilan. And I'm sure you have this pretty global experience and network in the healthcare space. And since you are continuously evaluating different kind of technologies for your own hospital in Chennai, it's going to be pretty interesting conversation with you as well. So thanks a lot for joining in. We have our moderator of the session today, who's also founder and CEO of SIMFINITY. May I request Alex to go ahead and do a quick introduction, please?
Sure thing. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending where you are. My name is Alex. I'm French. I've been in China for the last 17 years, mostly as an entrepreneur. Always interested into tech and education. And with SIMFINITY, I think that's my 4th venture. And finally, I managed to put these two things together. So the idea of SIMFINITY is, to change the way people learn. And obviously, if we can reach instant knowledge or close to that, would be very happy. With us in the room as well, there's Shelfie, who is my co-founder and COO. So she will be joining us for the session as well.
Shelfie, could you please introduce yourself?
No sound, Shelfie.
Somehow.
Let me introduce her. So Shelfie and I, we're classmates from University of Florida. We met early 2000s in the US. Together, we won the entrepreneurship contest of University of Florida and the Stanford Innovation Contest as an entrepreneur team. Then we had our separate ways for almost like 15 years, and we got together for SIMFINITY. So Shelfie is an interesting profile because you were talking about P&L. She's also serving as CFO, so she's good with numbers. She's been investment advisor for the British Consulate of Guangzhou and a bunch of VC firms, but she also somehow has interest in biochemistry. So she has a double degree into very, very different things that she combines together. And then, she joined the SIMFINITY Adventure. So she's based also in South China, same than me. And we together we built SIMFINITY.
Fantastic. Now I see Shelfie. Shelfie's audio is working. So Shelfie, probably you want to say hello?
Nope.
Oh, there's echo, but there's no audio. Okay, that's okay. We'll probably try that again later. Okay, now I do know that Alex has prepared some really interesting questions for the panel, where he wants to get the opinion, the feedback, the insights from the experts. So I would request Alex to go ahead and start taking the hot sizzling feedback, insights from the panelists. So Alex, please go ahead. And just one disclaimer, we also have some pretty expert participants from the hospital healthcare industry. So if anybody from the participants have any feedback, any opinion, please feel free to unmute yourself or put your comments in the chat section, and we would love to have your opinion as well. Please go ahead.
Sure. So I picked as a first topic VR and XR in an extended way. I mean, the tech has been around for a while now, over 10 years, right? We've seen the hardware evolving. There is like real value to it, but also we see some friction in deployment. So the question here is like, today, what is the real world useful medical applications for XR, and what do you think stops the technology to be even more used right now?
So shall we start with, please, Anubhav, go
ahead. See, whether we talk about AI or we talk about the augmented reality or we talk about XR therapies, whether in surgical or radiology or any other mental health, and even in education, I think the biggest hurdle which I see in India, at least in India, or maybe in tier 2 cities, is that there is a very uneven training levels available, or the resources which are interested to actually adopt them. Because so there is so one side, on one side, the patients have their own set of questions, wherein they say that if I will be operated through a robotic assisted surgery, they actually have a very strong feeling that it is the robot which is going to operate, it is not the doctor. So I think there is one thing which is education of the people who are going to use it, but also at the same point of time, the level of education which the patients have or the prospective patients have. So that I feel is the biggest, I would say, a deal breaker here in India as of now. I'm sure it is increasing and there is a definitive growth which we are seeing. So in Jaipur, when we started doing robotic surgeries, we were almost spending 80% of our time and resources to educate people what it is and why is it beneficial. So we never said that we have got a robot. We first gathered all the outcomes of the surgeries. We got the patients to talk about it. We actually created a proper PROM, what do you call, and as a structure of PROM through which we measured the outcomes, and based on which we started the overall story. Because when in a city or in a state wherein the technology is new and the technology is something which they have not heard of or they don't have proper knowledge, generally there are a lot of people who will be the negative sentiment promoters rather than the positive sentiment promoters. So I have seen it. I've been in the fire, I would say. But I think there is a very strong drive now because if you look at the bigger cities or bigger metros, I would talk about maybe New Delhi or maybe any other places. Even in South, I think there are enough and more institutes which are doing excellent work in AI and XR. The level of awareness is increasing. So it is just a way, and maybe through diagnostics or maybe in radiology, if we talk about, I think AI is doing a wonderful job. And I think there is enough and more which we see every day, whether it is cardiology or we see radiology or we see surgery, whether it is tissue or bone or other surgeries which we are doing now. People are actually seeing, and it is the word of mouth which is actually doing the impact more than anything else. Because when anybody who talks about advertising the benefits, people generally don't take it in the first go until and unless it has a viability, I would say, to an extent. But also at the same point of time, when people talk about the experience, that is when it is a better win.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Dr. Ilan, have you used VR or XR technologies within your work? Are you satisfied with it, or where do you think we are at right now?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question, Ashley. So if you look at this XR technology, we know that it's in the early stage. Of course, it has been there for many years, but if you look at healthcare, I would say we are still in the early phase. And if you look at the problems in the healthcare, we know that unskilled or those manpower needs to be upskilled. That's only skilled educators to train this unskilled manpower. And XR to play in terms of training for sure. At the same time, we have to understand that the technology itself is evolving still. It's a long way to go to scale it up to reach major population or major users. Again, if you come to the user end, there are multiple users, starting with the doctors, nurses, paramedics. There are so many people. Not all of them are well versed in terms of using some technology for learning it. So the mindset, there'll be a block in terms of using technology like XR, augmented reality, to use it in the clinical areas for learning. I'm sure over the period of time, when it becomes, at least in some areas, in terms of training, XR will play a major role. Again, there are a lot of options available for patients to use XR technologies like mental health. Even in ICUs for physiotherapy, rehabilitation, there are XR technologies available. We have tried with some of the technologies, but we haven't started fully using XR technologies in clinical usage, both for training and also for patient usage. At the same time, as Mr. Anubhav said, we are using robotics in our system, and these areas XR technology has been really useful. So to implement the XR technologies right into the clinical areas, there'll be a lot of roadblocks that we need to address one by one. The main thing is a lack of skilled users. I think we have to educate them to use the technology for learning. And there is a fragmented tech ecosystem across the country. There may be some good place where they want to invest a lot of money to bring in these technologies. There are places where even basic EMR and HIS is not fully available. So the ecosystem needs to be improved over the period of time. Cost will be an issue. Higher cost to bring in this technology will be an issue in our country. At the same time, over the period of time, I feel these technologies will slowly come into place to be used in multiple areas. Might take some time, and technology needs to also evolve a bit more better with the lower cost option, where people can easily use it on day-to-day practice. That's my viewpoint on XR technologies right now in the healthcare system.
Thank you for your answer. Yeah, I think overall, as a company which has deployed XR training over the years, we definitely realize that the younger the users are, the easier it is to deploy, right? So typically for India, it's perfect because your country is one of the youngest fast growing populations. So I figure the media is excellent. Now for the cost definitely. We saw Apple trying to do a move and create Apple Vision Pro as a consumer device, but there's no way that the whole world will equip itself for a device which is over $3,000. So I figure one of the key would probably hardware costs being reduced, because I'm not very worried about adoption, but definitely, as you said, there's cost, there's an impact, and we're still very early. So hopefully this will catch up eventually.
And if I may ask, I do understand that you shared your opinion on Indian ecosystem, but are you seeing similar kind of adoption or slightly different trends, slightly different adoption curve in different countries, for example, in UK or Singapore or other geographies? Do you have an insight on that?
So I would say that, I mean, if we compare obviously to India and other countries, obviously the adoption is by far larger there, and it's more a way of life, I would say. But in India, it's still catching up, and there are a lot of questions which have to be answered to the larger public. And also at the same point of time, it is also about upskilling yourself and be smart enough to use it rather than be afraid of it. But there is definitely a lot of scope which can be done in India. But outside, obviously, I mean, out of maybe 100 surgeries, I think 80, 85 would be done by a robot, is what I've heard of.
That sounds good. We've been talking a little bit about AI while we were mentioning VR, but I'm going to jump to the second question because I think it's pretty interesting. We've seen the fast rise of different AIs, right? People started to use ChatGPT like crazy maybe a year ago, then the hype went down. I do use it personally every single day, I would say, maybe for an hour or so at least as a great assistant for my work. But I'm just wondering, from your knowledge, is this concrete existing AI applications right now in the healthcare sector? Anything that delivers real world return on investment already, or are we still experimenting? Any projects that really make use of AI? Obviously, I know one of you is an AI founder, so that's very appropriate, right? But yeah, I want to know your input. What is the real life application in healthcare right now?
I would can I start, Anubhav?
No, please,
Sure.
please.
Yeah, sure. So I would probably divide AI tools into two groups. One is the clinical AI tools and non-clinical AI tools. I think there are a lot of non-clinical AI tools are pretty good actually. I think we have started those kind of tools in the real world in a clinical, in a hospital ecosystem. For example, we have done a bit of research with one of the AI company to find out the predictability of inventory management in the hospitals, because if you don't stock the adequate medicines in the hospital, there'll be a problem. If you overstock it, you'll have issues with the cash flow. So we thought we'll use our past 5 years, 6 years data to find out whether we are able to predict inventory for the next month, the following month. It seems to be pretty good and very useful. So whenever you are thinking about using AI tools for the non-clinical area, it is pretty good. If you come to the clinical areas, some of the areas like radiology, pathology, that's actually for X-ray radiology AI tools, it's pretty good. Still, it's an early stage, evolving stage. The problem is people's mindset. If one AI reporting is false, people overreact. At the same time, if a radiologist make mistakes, people are able to accept it and talk to them and negotiate it. This will be a flaw when you are going to introduce any technology. People don't expect the technology to make even a minor mistake. So until otherwise we cross that stage, it's going to be a problem to implement AI tools easily in healthcare system. The second biggest problem is data in Indian healthcare system. If you look at US, they have been doing clinical research with the AI tools for the last 15 years, 20 years. In India, even major hospitals haven't even started collecting patient data in a proper way. Unless otherwise we have the proper data, analyze those things, it's very difficult to create AI algorithms in Indian settings, because Indian patients' demography is completely different from Western data. So in India, we have to do a lot of work in terms of basic data collection, data optimization, and data analysis before moving on to AI tools. But there are a lot of AI engineers readily available for us to do this kind of work. But if you have a system in place, it's easily achievable. Because if you look at the population in India and the number of diseases, we can create a lot of AI models to showcase to the world. That's what I think.
Thank you. Anubhav, do you have any input on the AI application? So I'm trying to really see if there's actual products or is it only marketing right now? Like that's my main idea here.
So there is enough and more which we are doing with AI. Obviously, for inventory management is something which we have already started doing, but also at the same point of time, there are other software implementations which we have done, whether it is for helping. So first of all, I would like to clarify, whether it is AI or XR, they will never be able to replace the caregivers, whether it is doctors or nurses. They can just help them to become maybe faster, more effective, and maybe a little bit smarter. Smarter from not the perspective of their education, but smarter in the sense that they would be able to do more with less time invested. So so we recently did a AI implementation for hospital navigation. So it was a mix of AI and XR. So I would not say exactly XR, but then the moment you enter inside the hospital, you scan a QR code and then you just type in maybe the doctor's name or the department where you would like to go. So whether you type, billing, then in real time, it will take access of your camera and then guide you to the place. So generally what happens is when you enter the hospital the first time, you're not aware where do you have to go or maybe the right place. So for example, if my patient got admitted, I don't even know where can I have, a decent meal or maybe a cafeteria. So these are things which have definitely made an impact. Apart from that, obviously, whether it is inventory or it is radiology, I think it is very much there. It is a reality which we are seeing. With India, the challenge which we see, again, coming back to challenges that everybody doesn't have an Android phone. So now, how do you make that person scan that QR code? Or maybe tell them that, if you do this, this happens. They're still using those the normal phones, which are just used for calling. For those people, we still need not only technology, but also, there are things which we have to do physically. So doing marking on the pathways. Obviously, signage is something everybody sees, but then bilingual signages, custom made for maybe Rajasthan or for Delhi or for South India, whichever is the second language which is the most spoken, is something which helps us. But going forward, whether it is your prescription typing, so which we are using now, we did a recent HIS implementation. So that data is being collected. So obviously, it is more than maybe what HealthPlex and other MFine and others are doing. It also gives an analysis of all the reports which have been fed into the system to the doctor. So whether it was seen by that doctor was the first time in the hospital, but whenever the next time he's coming, the doctor will be able to see the reports of other doctors also, and also the trends. Another thing which I think which in India is now gonna pick up very fast is the ABDM. So that is the Aadhaar based uh, basically issuing of a medical ID. So that is something which has started now, and I think over a period of time, ABA ID is what they call it, uh, in which the data will get collated at one place, and when maybe I shift from one hospital to another hospital, I just need to give a consent. That would be a digital consent, through which the other doctor on in another hospital or maybe at his clinic would be able to see all those reports. Uh, we are 100% compliant already with the ABA ID for IPD. So all the patients getting admitted are already registered. But then the bigger concern is OPD. And also, I think I was also a part in a discussion with the government wherein I was talking about whatever pharmacy is getting dispensed in India as of now is not regulated as much as other countries. which is a serious concern because people are self-medicating, people are taking medicines on their own, antibiotics, higher antibiotics, and even restricted restricted pharmacy items are also being sold, which should get integrated into this health ID to actually give it the right meaning. Then it is easier to, with AI doing the data analytics, doing all the data crunching, then it will be easier to see what is the kind of maybe chronic diseases which you can see as a trend in different areas, different places, through which they can actually make their health plans. Uh, but then obviously it is gonna help a lot. But at the same point of time, there will be challenges and cautions, which I would say definitely will be there. And I think we will discuss that maybe in a next question, or maybe whenever we
I
discuss the
mean,
point. Yeah.
yes, the next question like is related to that, but I'm just curious about the system, like the ID, the patient ID, as you mentioned. So it is a centralized system, but as you said, they're not equipped with smartphones. So I figure this is independent from each patient. So it's like at the nationwide, and then every time you check in the hospital, you centralize this data. Is that the way it works?
That's how it has just started. So I mean, it is still in the nascent stages. Many people in many states would not even know about it, but there is enough and more what the government is trying to do and get it implemented. But there is
Okay.
so it is not only with the scanning of the QR code, but then it's also something like a social security number which gets attached to your health ID, and that is gonna collate all the data.
Okay.
So that is individual of
So it's actually a
yeah.
great point, because and that's the perfect jump to my next question, because I've been in China for almost 20 years, but I'm European originally, and the way we view privacy is completely opposite, right? So
Yes.
patient data, privacy, medical, like privacy in general in China does not matter much. At least people don't really, they're willing to share a lot of information because they're used to that. They've been living like with each other very tightly. There's a lot of people everywhere. So they're used to the fact that we don't have our private circles and all that stuff. So they share much more. They're more adventurous when it comes to trying new technologies. In Europe, it's the opposite. We everything is about GDPR, data protection, making sure we split work and personal life. Like it's really polar opposite. So when you talk about this patient data and all that stuff, I'm interested because actually in China, due to this kind of culture, the AI already started to be implemented even at the diagnosis level, right? So you can actually talk to virtual doctor and they roll this out already. People don't trust the technology, even one mistake, right? So no one is using autopilot on their cars in Europe because we're all thinking we're better than computers when it comes to driving. So back to the AI, my next question is like, what is the challenges like when it comes to implemented AI as a medical solution, right? And it is linked to the patient data you mentioned. So I'm interested to know your perspective, because I know the Europe one, the China one. You guys are in the middle. What is your opinion on that?
So I would just correct you. We are not in the middle. We are at the start, to be very frank, because the biggest challenge which I feel, and maybe the question, is the infrastructure gaps. So the infrastructure gap is going to take a lot of time and a lot of investment to get to that level wherein you can have a level playing field for all these applications or utilities to actually function. The second is obviously data privacy, because uh, I mean today, if I talk in India, data privacy is not that great. Not that great, I would say, is that it's very much open and free, and people actually don't even, they're not even sensitized to know that it is actually, this data is private. The moment you download a app and you just say allow all, and then you go
Yeah.
for that is the normal trend, and the practice which I see. Uh, but also at the same point of time, because this data also gets monetized. Uh, this is another bigger challenge, because this data is private, and if today I'm maybe diagnosed with a high blood sugar, automatically you will start seeing the ads based on that. on your mobile phone. So obviously the privacy is definitely a miss. There has been a government regulation which has been recently passed, but then there are so many things which still need to be, created as a regulatory framework, and punitive penalties and those things still have to be, uh, I would say, uh, defined. They are defined, but they are not enforced. So, so one is that they are there, but then they are not executed at the ground level. It takes ages to get something to be sorted out. If there has been a data piracy or a privacy breach or anything, it takes a very long period of time. So that is something which I feel is big question. But then
Okay.
people see, till that time, people see it as a big opportunity. As an entrepreneur, maybe as person in a health tech space would say that, if I get this data, then I can, pitch in so many patients, get them to, use my products, or maybe partner with 10 more companies and then market those products to them. So that is something which is, by the time people realize it, they want to shut down everything. But then
Well,
they don't understand that, excess of everything is obviously bad, but at the same point of time, if you use it properly, then it works in your favor. So neither they are aware about the borderline wherein they have to understand, read, and then only accept. So this is something, again, I come back to the education level, whether it is about using a iPhone or using a Android. We might be selling the maximum number of iPhones today in maybe India, or manufacturing also in India. But then, what do you call, the common sense level for using technology is something which is still a question mark, a big question mark, which needs a lot of work.
thank you very much. Dr. Ilan, what do you think? Are we getting AI doctors soon, at least for pre-diagnosis? Would it be a solution to, I don't know, I know there's a numerous problems, right? Like India, China, not enough hospitals, not enough doctors, not enough nurses, and is not gonna get any much better. Do you think AI is a solution for that?
I think if you look at India as a country, look at the public perception, they like a human touch and empathy from humans. So for that reason, AI doctors, even if it's available, they won't be able to completely replace the doctors in the system. I'm sure there are some of the areas like radiology where there's a huge lack of radiologists. AI can help in solving those certain problems rather than trying to replace those radiologists or pathologists, whoever it is. It will not replace at all, because even the other doctors, they may not believe the reporting system directly. So they might need the humans to give the final conclusion. I think that's what will happen in the future. That's what I strongly believe. Of course, there are many areas it can play a role in filling the gap and assisting doctors to do their job better. That will happen. Again, there is a need for a legal and ethical framework in our country to give you a clarity on many things. For example, if an AI tool makes a mistake, who is responsible? Is the AI company or the hospital or the doctor? So that solution need to be in place before talking about implementing AI tools in the clinical practice. And again, I spoke about data. Still, we are lacking data hugely in the clinical practice. Unless service we sort this out, using AI tools in the clinical area is going to be really, really tough. Again, the bias in training data is also a biggest problem. And you've already spoken about data security, confidentiality, on those stuff. And there is a possibility once it comes into place, we will there will be over reliance on machines. So there is a lack of human judgment, especially when there are younger people coming out of the system from medical school or nursing school. When they rely on machines more and more, they'll be lacking certain skills that needs to be balanced in the medical or healthcare education. And that's what I feel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the answer.
And
Yeah, go
if I
ahead.
may jump in over here, Vimal also mentions something on similar lines in the chat, where he did talk about hospitals being slow in adopting these AI solutions because of data privacy, security concerns, lack of trust, obviously cost, integration issues, and things of that nature. Vimal, do you want to expand upon that, or anything else that you want to add on top of that?
Yeah, just to elaborate on your question before we let the panel speak, like the lack of privacy, data privacy is funny because a lot of people seem to be concerned with that. But I feel when there's a need, like or something very viral, like a few weeks ago when this ChatGPT picture version of yourself that you look like a manga, right? You can think about how many millions of people just started uploading personal pictures because they found it so fun to have your family as a manga or whatever. So what is interesting to see is that I feel that when people have an incentive which is strong enough, they might actually fast forward on this. And I mean, the incentive of being healthy or solving an issue with your health through a much quicker way than actually going to the hospital could be a debate here where people are willing to forget about all these hurdles because they want quick treatment. So do you think that could happen? Are we gonna skip these steps because we all want a mega picture version of of medical AI? Or
See, I think one thing which is very very evident, which you started off with, is the the overall percentage of population which is young, right? So when there is young population, there will be enough and more uh, things which you throw at them, whether it is social or it is medical or it is anything else, which has a viability nature, will definitely see lot of traction across. So if tomorrow you launch a similar kind of an app wherein you would say that you scan your face and it will tell you about your skin, or maybe you scan your eyes and it's gonna tell you about your basic problems, and then you can consult your doctor, this would be picked up by the younger population. But then also, and it'll be only Gen Z. So obviously, the earlier generations would definitely still go to a doctor, take a proper prescription, and then follow the medicines. But with Gen Z, or maybe I would say the younger population, it is very different because they want quick results. They actually don't. Uh, I would not say they don't take it seriously, but then they find it convenient, and convenience is a priority number one for them. But at the same point of time, I think it has done wonders for various other places, whether it was surgeries, XR getting into Da Vinci systems, which we are using. It is definitely improving the way of life. It is definitely improving the way people go back to their lives faster with measurable outcomes. So, I mean, uh, all in all, I think whether it was what Alex has mentioned about that AI image which was being made by the Ghiblis is what I think was the name.
Ghibli, yeah, Ghibli
Ghiblis
from
or
ChatGPT.
Ghiblis or something which was there. But at the same point of time, you're compromising on so much which people are still not understanding. They're not actually understanding what is the price they're paying. Uh, which is very, very important. I feel, I mean, the future is bright for sure, but then a strong regulatory guidelines and framework to control all these things is very, very important. And obviously, the way the data flows is something which has to be controlled by the government authorities, or from maybe something which is worthy enough of the trust of private information.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ilan, you want to react on that?
No, I think Anubhav has covered most of the bits actually. So whatever I say.
Okay, perfect.
Particular area.
Great. Well, that brings us to the next topic, which is bold predictions, right? So we talk about all this tech. Definitely will affect these younger generations. We mentioned about it. How do you see, like with all this tech, how do you see healthcare like 5-10 years from now? Like if you have a few predictions, maybe 2-3 predictions, bold statements, what do you think will change and what do you think will stay the same?
I think all this technological development will have a huge impact on how we deliver healthcare in the future. There is no doubt that AI and whatever technology will have an impact, positive impact in the healthcare in the future. I'm very positive about this because if you look at the issues, the main problem is affordability, accessibility. If these solutions can solve those two problems, I think it will be people will easily start accepting it. I used to quote an example of UPI transactions in India, where people initially thought it's going to be a difficult task to implement it. The GPay and all this stuff, even a tea vendor is able to use these solutions very easily. If these solutions can be part of day-to-day practice, and if it's going to solve these issues, I'm sure this technology will definitely make a big positive impact in our country, I feel. And again, these tools will also improve certain areas like personalized medicine, predictive medicine, because if you can use the past data very well, we may be able to predict many things, and these solutions can offer better healthcare in the future. That's what I feel strongly. And I'm pretty sure that this will create a positive impact in the healthcare system.
I have a question before Anubhav can also tell us about the future, his vision of the future at least. I'm just curious about the way healthcare is operated in India, because in France, we decentralize it quite a lot, right? So we have hospitals, but you go there only when you go to the ICU or for like surgery or these kind of things. But when it comes to GPs or specialists, usually they're spread out all across the country, sometimes as one person, independent and little office, sometimes like a medical house where a few professionals are together. But in China, it's the opposite, right? So you have like a huge hospitals, hundreds of thousands of people flowing in, flowing out, and whatever you have, you need to go there, right? There's no other option. You cannot have a local doctor whatsoever. So can you guys give me some feedback, like some feedback about how it operates in India? My question being linked to the fact that maybe 10 years from now it's going to be different, decentralized, tech powered. So I just want to know where we started from.
So I think it's a mix of both the worlds. So we have bigger hospitals, obviously, and small size hospitals. So the hospitals ranges between 500 to 1,000 and even more, even 2,000 beds. But there is your friendly GP available in your neighborhood who's practicing after the hospital hours, running his own outpatient clinics across India. I think barring maybe one or two cities or three, four cities. I think I see that practice across. Uh, the good part about this is the accessibility improves. And secondly, you have more trust on the person who's living next door. And obviously, the reach is faster. So for example, tomorrow my kid has a problem. I would prefer a pediatrician who's living maybe 1 kilometer away rather than going to a hospital, taking an appointment, then seeing him, and spend those 3 4 hours, whether it was traveling, taking an appointment, and then going there, waiting, and then seeing the doctor. Uh, but saying that, I think the standardization is still there as a question mark, because that is something maybe in other countries like US, UK, even in France or other places, I think it is pretty much standardized that for the first 3 days you would not give any antibiotics. You would wait for the body to respond, recover. That does not still happen in India, which is a question mark still. So, but otherwise, I think it is still very much accessible. And surprisingly, the accessibility comes with the flexibility of the pricing too. So there is a doctor who might charge you an X dollars or X thousand rupees, but there will be a doctor who would see you in maybe few hundreds of rupees too. So the flexibility and accessibility is solved, but then the standardization is something which we should work on.
Understood. But while we have you, there's a question in the chat which is related to a topic you mentioned before, which is data and money, right? So sharing patient data with other hospitals for money, it is a serious issue. It might impact many like people, the hospital revenue. Like, how do we control that? Because you're talking about standardization, right? So that's right on with the topic.
So
How do we control that?
how we do it at our hospital is very simple. It is a simple rights matrix. So, for example, Pankaj has all the rights to see for his patients or his data, and he is responsible. He signs a code of conduct for the IT policy. If we find any breach at any given point of time, whether small or big, it will cost him his job. That is the end of story. So, See, obviously, nothing can be foolproof. A person who really wants to steal, he will steal. But then there are drives, there are a lot of education, there's a lot of training which happens from IT, from the HR, also from the clinical side, from the doctors, that this data is sensitive. So you can't send a patient's WhatsApp report to somebody who's not a patient, and it has to be security driven, whether through an OTP or a password which only the patient can access. So that is something which we are trying to drive, but then you won't find it too much. I mean, let's agree to disagree. I mean, there is enough and more which is happening, but then it is not enough because the volume and the scale is humongous. So right now it is a
Understand.
chaos. It is a chaos. It is an unorganized chaos, organized in some places and unorganized in majority of the places, I would say.
So you think it will be organized 10 years later?
Definitely, we should. I mean, so part of it would be obviously executing, and part of it would be adoption. I think from both the ends, whether it is the government or it is the tertiary care hospitals, or it's the trust hospitals or private hospitals or clinics. That should be
Thank you.
the only way to do it, and that is when you sort it out, like they did for financial organizations. I would say maybe RBI in India, Reserve Bank of India, which regulates everything. Similarly, if I talk about stock exchanges, which regulate, so we have those. Similarly, I think we should have a proper framework, whether it is for digital health or digital delivery of any service, but at the same point of time, have a structure to it.
And you, Dr. Ilan, do you think your job will be completely different 10 years later, 20, 35? Where do you see yourself?
No, I don't think so, actually. I think, of course, the technology will grow and make an impact. At the same time, there are certain cultures of Indian people. I don't think the technology will make an impact on the general culture. That may take many, many decades to come to change the culture of how they wanted to receive the treatment. That technology won't be able to change it. So, of course, the technology will help us improve the care we deliver, the way we deliver. I don't think it's going to make a big impact, or it's going to completely transform the way we deliver the healthcare. It's going to benefit the healthcare providers and also the people who's going to get the healthcare treatment. I think it's going to be beneficial for both. That's what I'm going to see. And of course, for example, if somebody doesn't use the technology, for sure will be replaced by somebody who is using technology. That's going to happen. So people should be able to learn and adopt the technology very quickly. That will happen in our country sooner.
Great. Thank you for your answer. And then that leads us to the last question, right? So thanks to you, we already are able to see in the future. So that's already a very, very good superpower. But that's my next question. If you had one superpower to bring one change, one positive change in your industry, what would it be and why? So you can pick anything. Like you want to start, Anubhav?
I would say,
Please.
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Dr.
So,
Ilan, please.
inequality is the biggest problem in healthcare. Somebody is able to afford basic healthcare. Somebody is not even able to afford the basic healthcare. If I have a superpower, I would probably try to address this inequality. I think that's what I would try to do it in healthcare, because that's the biggest issue to be resolved. I think there's be some equality, like Western countries. People should be able to access to healthcare without any inequality issues. That's a superpower I would prefer to have it.
Thank you very much.
And if I had one, definitely it's going to be an integration of equality of the way people have access to healthcare. Second would be obviously the ethical part of the healthcare, definitely to be integrated into the equality, and at the same point of time, the empathy which every healthcare practitioner or every healthcare giver should be practicing without being trained for it. It is the baseline. I mean, so these three E's would be, my target and goal, which I generally practice now also in my hospital and wherever I go and I speak. I say that, this is something which is the baseline, which we should talk about. And that is where I believe the first step of standardization would come in. So whether it is to give care or to heal or to operate on, it is these three are mandatory.
Thank you for your answer. All right, so I think we've been through all our questions. Thank you very much for your inputs, feedback, and insights.
Thank you.
Pankaj, you want to take over?
Yep. No, thanks a lot, Alex, as well for being such a fantastic moderator. And definitely thanks to Dr. Ilan and Dr. Anubhav for being very insightful and being very open with the ideas. So that's really appreciated. The second segment where I want to transition now is called roast session. And why we host roast session for a startup founder? Because most of the times founders do not get this brutal, honest feedback, candid feedback from the industry leaders. They get some sugar-coated PS. And as we all know, that does not help. And that's why we request industry leaders to listen to the startup pitch and provide as much honest feedback as possible, ask direct questions, and again, share the feedback, right? So yeah, we have, again, Alex on the call, and he'll be sharing his presentation, probably a brief product demo as well. And then would love to get the comments from Dr. Ilan and Dr. Anupam. Alex?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see.
And if there is any feedback from the participants as well, that's perfectly all right. We would love to take that as well. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Do you see
Yeah.
everything here? Okay, perfect. So as I was introing quickly 1 hour ago, I'm the CEO and founder of SIMFINITY, Instant Knowledge, Infinite Possibilities. So we started actually from the medical sector and airlines. So we are specialized into education. And we started this company because like every single day, there's more or less 100,000 flights taking off, in which there is about 200 medical emergencies happening. It leads to 20 redirections, to sometimes casualties, to $10 million cost annually. So we realized there was a problem here, and it's the same in the medical industry, right? So healthcare, many medical mistakes are made every year. That leads estimated during according to research. So it depends where you look at, let's say around 2 million deaths that could be related to medical mistakes or similar per year, which is a lot of money as well. So looking at these different angles, we realize the problem is that professionals need to be prepared before they face the real challenges, because they don't have time to train properly. So that's where we created our main tool, which is called SimCloud. To make it very simple, the idea behind SimCloud is a single platform to change the way people train and to transform our customers' knowledge into immersive training. So that's the main thing of SimCloud, from old ways to learn to immersive ways to learn. So SimCloud is one single platform that can support all kind of immersive tech. So it can be VR, AR, virtual humans, all kind of AI, and even medical training machines such as CPR mannequins, simulators. So our idea behind SimCloud is to have one single location where you can access all these immersive ways of training. There's four key points of SimCloud. First is instant, so we can turn knowledge of our customers into training content within minutes. It's elevated because we pick only immersive training, so it delivers better performance. It's scalable. We can deploy training over thousands of users within seconds. You can connect it to the LMS of the customers across all kind of devices. And last, data. We've been speaking about it for 1 hour, but it's measurable. We have a full data suite, which is obviously very secure, which will provide insights after every single training session. So how it works, very simple, smartphone operated. You scan a QR code on the VR headset, and you get to start your training right away. So in this case, you're looking at training for medical events on board a plane. So it is immersive VR training. So which means the cabin crew use the solution and this content to train themselves before they actually go to the mock-up plane or even into the plane and manage the medical emergency. So they have to to have a hands-on approach where they really have to solve the whole situation here, provide, EpiPen. So it depends on regulations, but in this case, you need to inject it yourself as a cabin crew in charge of the cabin. So once they're done with the full VR experience, they will get a full report on their phone. So another kind of product would be AI-based conversation scenario. So same on SimCloud, same platform, but this time is a conversation-based training. So we have these scenarios where all the situations are non-scripted and where you discuss with a virtual human. So here, a virtual passenger who's upset about sit recline, but we have plenty of content for medical emergencies on board as well. So the idea is you can interact by text, you can interact by audio, is very realistic. And you go through different situations as a cabin crew. Once you solve the situation, you get a full data report, AI powered, which is the equivalent of what a teacher would really provide in terms of feedback, right? Very detailed, very commented. So that's what the AI product does. The idea, once again, is to have one single experience for any trainees, whether it is medical students, cabin crew, you name it. They can just use one platform and access all kind of immersive training. We've been working mostly with the medical sector in South China, but we've been expanding to airlines recently because definitely they have a big problem when it comes to training their cabin crew, and even at the airport level. So we've been expanding. All the logos you see here, they do use SimCloud to train some of their staff at least. And we've been in China for a couple of years now. We're a national high-tech company, and we're trying to expand in the APAC region. So that's pretty much it. If you have any question, if you want to ask me anything, I'm gonna stop sharing now, and happy to to receive your comments, your cold hard truth comments.
Let's take that.
So the only thing which I would maybe have a question is that if I don't have a facility wherein I can afford a lot of XR headsets, what is the
Yes.
solution which you can provide with a
I would
similar
say,
kind of simulation?
yeah, definitely. I think the AI product already delivers quite some value. So it's conversation based, so a scenario, text or audio. You need a smartphone. So the thing is, in China, they're quite smartphone equipped, even like remote and countryside, because a couple of local brands really pop out, like very cheap devices. And also because it seems to be a priority equipment for anyone, no matter your income levels, right? So it became a standard staple. I've seen like grandmas, 80 years old in the countryside, chatting online with their relatives. So yeah, I think if you have a basic smartphone, a browser, or even a computer that they can share, I would start by the AI scenarios. Definitely less immersive than VR, but already good enough to practice skills with patients, no matter it is diagnosis, treatment, or even empathy roles. I would start by that. Very easy to deploy.
But then when people start using smartphones, we get advocated on, the use of screens and the screen time which we spend on this, whether it is mobile phones or laptops or whether it is tablets or the TV screens. Uh, I'm also looking at something which we generally do in India a lot is through role plays, and maybe role plays, and also through. I mean, obviously, it is a little, I would say, uh, kind of something old which has been done earlier. It is through comic strips. So
Okay.
uh, I was mentoring a startup which is based out of India itself. I'm into mentoring of startups, so I've been doing that for almost 2 years now, and I've done around 6 businesses. Uh, which I saw was very interesting to tell people maybe uh, I mean, an age group of maybe 10 to 14 or maybe 8 to 14 years, how do you tell them what you should not do to get a common cold, or maybe what all things which they should do? They actually made those digital comic strips, and which was pretty good. I mean, that is another way to do it, but then obviously the content which you are talking about is not something which you could do with a comic strip, but you can do with animated videos. You can do also with maybe something which we are starting now as an LMS at our hospital is through the videos being made by the staff itself. So whether it is a room orientation video or it is about, a topographical idea to be given to a new staff who has just recently joined, it is the staff within the organization who's talking about it. So the staff feels a little bit elevated because he becomes a part.
Yeah, okay.
He becomes an actor, and he becomes engaged in something, and he sees his video being running in 10 screens and 10 people seeing it and people acknowledging him. So it works both ways. XR is something wherein you would ask somebody to be there for that stipulated time to complete that exercise. I want something which a person would like to do on his own through his interest, and obviously, maybe tie it up with his journey in the organization, wherein we are able to see the training effectiveness, the scorecards, and other stuff, which will
Mhm.
be based on the kind of work which they would be doing on getting a certification or something of that sort. So, I mean, this is something, a hybrid model is something which we are working on as of now for us, which is generally a mix of uh, animations with some classroom trainings and obviously some practical trainings. Because in healthcare, everything cannot be, put on XR, I would say.
Yes,
It is
definitely.
definitely good, but then it has limited use because you need to understand what is the kind of pressure which you want to put, or maybe for a CPR for that matter, or for any other things.
Yes. So to address the concern about screens, I agree with you, and that's actually why we put a lot of effort on the audio interaction. So there's a couple of very nice companies from the US and India and all over the world putting a lot of money into researching like natural conversation for AIs. Sesame is one of them, and we trying to implement this. So definitely, I put most of the efforts on that. And the good thing would be that you do not need to watch your screen because, to be fair, I'm using this regularly now with ChatGPT and others, audio-based conversations,
Yes.
and it is crazy. Like it sounds like a human person. I've been like catching myself speaking to our prototype for 20 minutes because just feels like you have an actual person in the room. So I think that would be solving the issue of the screen thing. And possibly as well, what I'm just realizing is in a market like India, where you said people have like even like traditional device, right? Not smartphones. This could be solved because it means if you run it on the server, like we do on SimCloud, and you reach out through a phone call, then technically you can actually talk to the AI over the phone. So you do not need the smartphone interface. So definitely something I did not consider, but I had it in mind for the reason that we're exploring beyond healthcare. And we already started a few contracts training salespeople, and obviously salespeople they work a lot of on the phone these days. So they already started to ask me, "Hey, can I call a number and then speak to a virtual guy and experiment?" So that would be one thing, I guess. And as you said, I think airlines, universities, they all want the same thing. They want the TikTok version of training. That's exactly what you're talking about, right? It's like short videos. If you involve people, I know they kick, they ask for that, so that makes sense.
See, because at the end of the day, if you go back to our discussion, the people
Yes.
you're addressing is Gen Z, and what's works with them is actually working in the social media. That is what they relate to. That is what they are, attached to as of now. Because gone are those days when people are actually, I mean, uh, typically in India, if you'll see, the screen time is increasing. The kids going to the park time is reducing, uh, which is a big concern. And there are softwares which people are now looking at. Earlier, they were getting all the fancy mobile phones for their kids. Now they're looking for applications, how to reduce that time, how to control that content, whether it is your family link or Google or whatever. They are trying out everything. So at one point of time, they are actually creating that nuisance, and then they are trying to control that nuisance, and then they are saying that this is nuisance. They knew it in the first place, but then they were not mindful of using it in the right way. Same for AI and XR, I think. I mean, it goes across. Whatever you do, if you see those three things, how can you actually utilize or maybe save time? That is something which makes more sense.
Yeah, I notice a behavior of my kids as well, who are all under 10 years old. They seem to, the reason why also they have a high screen time is they tend to, when they go back from school, they fire up a Teams or a Zoom with all their classmates, and they
Yeah.
just leave it here. So that's really weird for me. So not like as a co-op with a purpose like we do right now, but they just leave it on and they go around. And even if they go in the garden, they'll leave the iPad on the side and then just come in and out, I guess, from the COVID, years as well. But that's one thing which is strange. And I'm just wondering if you make it audio, right? Like, do you think people will complain the same time saying that, oh, you spend all your time talking to an AI, is not a real human, you're gonna lose social skills? I'm just wondering, do you think we're making a mistake going the audio way, basically?
At one time, people are complaining of too much of crowd and not getting their me time. But in their me time, they are either watching social media or they are, you know, talking to somebody who's actually nobody. So I mean, it is smart enough, but then at the end of the day, it is something which you can have a meaningful data conversation, or but then it will not. It can go to a certain level of cognitive behavioral therapy, I would say.
Hmm.
But for that, it has to be programmed. I mean, thankfully, it doesn't answer to the wrong questions. Otherwise, I mean, it's gonna be a big scare for people.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for you, as since you're on the business side of things as well, may as well use that time. As you see, we have a training solution. We're working with the Chinese University of Hong Kong, deploying it to students, but also, and then you know it as well, like the time to markets in the healthcare sector, it's super super long. Especially, I mean, talking about China is even worse because you go through the government every single time, so there's an additional level of clearance. But even in APAC region, I feel, like the timing in between, like once you meet the right person and someone who understands technology, was passionate, like someone like you who gets it right, it's easy. But not everyone is like you. So my question is, do you have any advice for us to how do we accelerate, how do we shrink that, how do we make them feel secure about a cloud-based training system, including AI? How do I cut the the month so I survive?
So I think maybe the best way would be to get hold of the opportunities which would actually be the pain areas for all the hospitals as of now, and creating those contents maybe to address those top five concerns, which you can do with the survey, or maybe getting in touch with the top leaders or the CEOs, or maybe even people who are owning the hospital chains. Even your venture capitalists can also tell you that these are few five things which so there will be five things which they are not able to solve at the top level, and there will be five things which they are not able to solve on the ground level. Those 10 things will actually be the success maker, I would say, because these things which will be easily adopted and would be fetched for. So maybe today a needle stick injury would be a problem because it is a huge cost from a financial angle, but there could also be a patient fall, which will again be a financial problem with the patient safety, at the same point of time financial issues. So, I mean, these are five, maybe five, top five. If you talk about me, would be my bed utilization. How do I get my bed utilization up? By getting those patients out of the hospital when they're supposed to be out and not spending more time, maybe elongated 5 hours or 6 hours. How can I work better with my insurances to get my approvals faster? So maybe the opportunity which I would see is maybe in billing auditing software. So once you feed in everything, you get a bill which is correct and will get an approval faster. So by saying that, I would save you 20% of your capacity over a period of 3 months, this is definitely gonna be the first go for any hospital. If you are able to, declutter or maybe decongest that occupancy or those number of
Okay,
beds. So these are few things which we can maybe, talk offline, or maybe whenever you would like to understand more. But then these are few
sure
things
thing.
as opportunity I see. Uh, with AI, it is difficult because the data is not digitized completely. So it is difficult to capture those smaller, I would say T1, T2s, and T3s and T5s to T10s. Uh, that still needs a little bit more better capturing, I would say. So that is something which we're still missing as a organization, maybe as an industry, because there is a lot of manual work which still needs to gets should get auto captured, which will save time for the ground staff to do more work. So I would say whenever I go to my front office, who do the billing and who do the OPD consultation billings, I tell them please interact with patients. Then they say, sir, one bill takes maybe 20 seconds to generate. I would look at how can that be done in 10 seconds, so that
Okay.
those 10 seconds they are able to speak to the patient and maybe just pass a smile and say hello and how are you doing. The number of
Makes
patients
sense.
definitely is going to increase, right? Because um, the load on the tertiary care hospitals is ever increasing. People want quality, but they also want at a decent price. They don't want to go to, in India specifically, if you have money, you would not like to go to a government hospital. Pankaj would be knowing about it. Uh, but at the same point of time, a person who has enough money, he wants proper service. He wants the person to talk to you decently. He wants all the expressions to be in the right place. He wants good people to be talked to. Uh, the services have to be top notch. Then he's ready to pay for the price. But then for those patients, my capacity is limited. So how do I churn that capacity faster? How do I get those people to work uh, maybe work more conveniently and in a happier environment is something which I look at. That is my opportunity as as the VP for CK Birla.
Thank you.
That's pretty insightful. Thanks
Yes.
a lot for that, Dr. Anubhav. Uh, any other recommendation on the go-to-market strategy in India, or probably channel strategy? What kind of channels Alex may want to work with?
See, the channel which will definitely work for you is private hospitals for sure. I mean, government will be the late adopter.
Oh yeah.
Reason being because first they need to graduate towards the softwares which still they are, I mean, trying to adopt. The tertiary care hospitals, the hospitals which are doing more specialized work, would be interested to have their staff better trained, better skilled, better retained, and become more smarter. Because then, I mean, one person should be enough to do a work of three people is something which, by the virtue of adding whether it is AI or XR or whatever technology we are talking about, it is also about convenience and the kind of, I would say, benchmarking which we do. So whether it is benchmarking for what we pay in the market or to a ex-nurse who's a specialty nurse for the past 10 years working into OT or into an ICU, these are things which matter to people who actually give enough and more uh, weightage to quality. So people, I mean, you can easily look at, I can tell you 10, 12, 15 brands in India who are actually working towards and are serious and investing into these kind of activities. So whether it is about a patient experience, it is about the quality of care which you deliver, or is it about the standardization, or it is about the overall experience of the non-medical side of the hospital. These are things which are very tangible, which can be standardized, wherein many people say that it is the doctor which creates that experience. Yes, I agree, but then it is up to 30, 35, 40%. The rest still belongs to the rest of the staff, which is because the doctor is going to either see you before the OT, or he's going to see you after the OT for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever time he's visiting you. But the rest of the time, it is going to be the service people who are going to be with you, whether it is your nursing, whether it is the junior resident at the floor, or is it your housekeeping or front office or GDA or billing. They can create enough and more impact. And I can see it. Why? Because I started a project with the general help which is there on the floors. we started a project wherein we said that, so for example, if I see 1,500 patients in a month who get admitted in my hospital, I want you guys to ensure that that patient leaves us a good feedback. So they are not targeting a good feedback now. They are targeting that the patient should not get any complaint. So they have started working back.
Okay.
So now then I created a competition between departments. So for example, front office is able to collect more than nursing, then I reward front office in 1 month. But in the next month, the nursing is going to take over and they get the award. So it is a rolling kind of a reward. So these are
Okay.
few things which you can do at ground level. And we have a patient experience department in the hospital, which takes care of all those feedback collections, whether it is complaints, whether it is suggestions, whether it is appreciations, which get published and are part of are actually a part of their appraisal goal sheet for every person who's working in the organization. The result of which is that I can proudly say, my patients who are coming for the past 1 year in this organization for any kind of medical treatment have rated me 90% excellent services. So I'm not even calculating very good. I am saying
Okay.
only excellent. 90% is a benchmark which I have now put into the market, saying that, my patients are 90% satisfied. They have rated me excellent. And if I add very good, it goes to 94. So 6% is my opportunity for improvement, definitely. And the 94% are my net positive promoters.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
I mean, this is how you can actually, find, I would say, the right kind of alignment with your team. Also, at the same point of time, tell them which direction to go.
Okay.
So I just say that listen to your patient what they are saying. If they are saying it, I would agree that there is a problem. If they are still not saying it, then it is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
there is enough and more. Potential, definitely, but it has to be scalable. It has to be affordable, definitely, because it is a price-sensitive market.
Yep, that does make sense. Sounds good, Alex. Any
Yeah.
other questions that you have to our panel, to the participants? Anything else that you want to learn from them?
I think I'm pretty happy with all the discussion we had. I have a lot of homework now in the market discovery, but overall, I think we covered the points. We answered the questions. I'm very happy with the outcome. So I think we can. I mean, I don't have much more questions, so up to you. But otherwise, I'm happy to wrap it up.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Anubhav, again, for
Thank
being
you.
so kind with your feedback, with your insights. And
Yeah.
I mean, since you have been working with the startup, since you have been in the hospital space, I'm sure there'll be a lot of interesting recommendations and guidance that would come our way in the future conversations. So we would love to continue these conversations with you. And again, really, really appreciate your time today. Alex,
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Alex, you have been a fantastic moderator. Obviously, you did not sweat, you did not cry with the roast session because it was
It's an AI filter.
it was extremely, generous for you. There was nothing sort of critical feedback. But yeah, appreciate the time today, and let's reconnect in the next few weeks and months to explore how we can support each other. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care. Cheers. Bye.